Feminism is what we say it is. And we say that feminism is the problem. Putting the conversation where it needs to be. This is the Vanguard Report.
Greetings, fellow workers in the vineyard. Welcome to episode number 12 of the Vanguard Report, the weekly radio show where we talk about feminism from a perspective that you don't normally hear, a non-feminist perspective. Wow, think of that. Feminism is damn near all we talk about on this program. This is not a platform for the so-called men's rights movement. It is a platform for the let the oil out of feminism's crankcase movement. Oh, don't get me wrong, we do care about men's issues, but I admit we don't care. But we do care, you know what I mean? It's called emotional honesty, and I think you might find it refreshing. As always, I am your host, Fidelbogen, and with me is my fellow host, Nick Reading, a man of Canada, a true son of the Alberta Prairie, and counter-feminist commissar for the city of Edmonton. And as usual, Nick is transmitting from the top of a grain elevator far out upon the wide Alberta Prairie. Nick, I know you want to say hello to the people and you want to say something else. Nick, say hello to the people.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Reading from mensrightsedmonton.com, and we're going to start putting episodes of this show on our YouTube channel, which you can find just by clicking the videos link on our website, mensrightsedmonton.com. And because, unfortunately, the chat room is down this week, I can't provide any links to the story I'm going to cover here, but as many of you may know, Vice Magazine finally took a break from trashing the men's rights movement to do a little piece on the women of the men's rights movement. And it's very good. Both the video and the article can be found on A Voice for Men, and they did a damn fine job. But
it's actually respectful then, is it, Nick?
Yes, it is. But they so they're finally they gave very favorable reviews to Janet Bloomfield and Karen Strawn, but
holy shit! Favorable reviews to Karen Strawn. Go on, Nick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is the first time that they've ever written anything respectful about us. Every other thing that they've written about us has been an abominable hit piece. And even before that, they wrote a piece. They have a regular feature in their magazine called Crybaby of the Week. And on June 8, 2012. They had a couple of crybabies. One was Miss April Spielman, and it had to do with something at Disneyland. But the next one is about a case familiar to many non-feminists. So it's the case of Soner Yassa, a cab driver here in Edmonton. And I'd like to read their coverage about it, their coverage of it for you. It's very brief. So crybaby number 2, everyone involved in a story about fake rape. In brackets, is there a word for fake rape? The incident is that 4 girls took a cab. When they arrived at their destination, the driver asked them for $13 for his services. The appropriate reaction, paying for the cab that they ordered and subsequently rode in. The actual reaction, upon arrival, the 4 ladies told the cab driver that they were not going to pay for the cab. Then they exited the vehicle and told the first people they saw that the driver had attempted to molest them. Then they called the police. Luckily for Soner Yassa, the driver of the cab, he had a dash cam recording what was happening and was able to prove his innocence to the police. But then, Soner decided that just getting away with it wasn't enough, and decided to sue the young ladies for $60,000, which, I believe, puts him firmly into crybaby territory himself. Obviously, accusing someone of a rape they didn't commit is a very, very, very shitty thing to do, but you can't sue people for what might have happened. Or, I mean, you can. I know this because he's doing it right now, but you shouldn't.
I would beg to differ with the shouldn't. I'm surprised he didn't sue them for $150,000. I mean, if he could get away with it.
So, unfortunately, I can't provide a link to this story at the moment, but you can, if you just Google Soner Yasa, S-O-N-E-R space Y-A-S-A, and then the word vice, it'll come up with the crybaby of the week. This publication, what I think they're doing is they're trying to distance themselves. I think they're realizing that their critical attitude towards the men's rights movement and articles like this are just abysmal. And
maybe they sense that the tide is turning.
Yeah, and they're doing exactly what I've predicted on this program before. Is they're trying to say nice things and do nice things and behave decently without admitting the shitty way that they acted in the past.
Well, we intend to remind them of that now, don't we?
Yes. People cannot just be allowed to simply drop their bullshit behavior or their bogus criticisms and turn around and go, "Oh, we were, oh, that was nothing. You guys are awesome." They have to be held accountable until they publicly apologize. That's it.
We will encourage them to say they're sorry. Yes. Folks, this story of Soner Yasa is just one of many. Stories like this happen all the time. They're not rare. They're not uncommon. These young women were not afraid to go through the legal proceedings and go to the police and all of that traumatic stuff that the feminists keep talking about. Clearly, it was a walk in the park to them. They thought nothing of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's move right along with the show here. I would like to discuss something which has weighed upon my mind most grievously of late. I trust that you are all familiar with the trendy feminist expression, "You don't really care about men, you just want to attack feminism." Yeah, they're all saying this nowadays, and they appear to think it is some kind of devastating moral argument against all of us uppity, non-feminist people who dare to speak unkindly of feminism. To me, it sounds like pretty weak stuff, almost like saying you don't really care about the house, you just want to fight the fire. All right, so when they say this, what are they really doing? What are they really up to? What precisely is their game? Well, it's simple. They're trying to pull the spotlight off feminism. They're trying to steer the conversation away from feminism's crimes. They are trying to get feminism off the hook. But wait, it goes deeper. When they say, you don't really care about men, you just want to attack feminism, they are trying to separate the principle of caring about men from the principle of attacking feminism. They would like to instill the phony idea that these things are somehow mutually exclusive. Furthermore, they want to incorporate caring about men into the feminist narrative in order to make themselves the authority on that subject. Finally, they want to cast attacking feminism adrift from its organic relation to caring about men. They want to rip these two things apart. Feminism will then be able to assimilate pro-male politics and turn it into a feminist brand. This will also isolate counter-feminism and make it an easy target. In this way, they hope to regain full control of the conversation and silence all effectually political non-feminist voices. All right, feminists, I'll play your game. I admit that I don't care about the house, but I hate the fire, and I want to pour all the water on it that I can. Now, see if you can shut me up. Okay, let's move right along to the business of the evening. What is non-feminism, and what does it mean to be non-feminist? Maybe that sounds a tad bit simple-minded, but in our game, it's one of the most important questions you can ask. It comes under the heading of, where do we stand? And We shall dig as deeply into this as time permits.
So, what exactly is a non-feminist? Well, that's easy. A non-feminist is a person who is not feminist. And what is an anti-feminist? That too is easy. An anti-feminist is a non-feminist who is consciously opposed to feminism in principle. That leads us to explain the innovative word counter-feminist. We coined this term because we wanted to express opposition to feminism in a way that could not be conflated with opposition to women, although I'm sure they'll try.
Well, look at the word anti-feminist. It's ambiguous. On its face, it could be taken to mean either against feminism or against women. And sure enough, some people take it one way and other people take it the other way. A lot of people aren't even clear in their own minds about the difference, and that is exactly what the feminists want. They love it when people conflate feminist with female, just as they themselves willfully do every time they call feminism the women's movement. They capitalize on linguistic confusion in order to push those who speak against them into the chauvinist or misogynist corner. That is their little trick to place feminism beyond attack. But the word counter-feminist thwarts this. Look at that word. You can only take it one way, opposed to feminism. After all, counter-female sounds nonsensical and silly, which indeed it is.
And now we come full circle back to non-feminists. You should understand that non-feminism is a persistent state. And so long as non-feminism persists in any form, the feminist project itself will be stymied. As a non-feminist, you embody passive opposition. You are an impediment to their plans, a boulder or even a mountain, which they cannot remove. So they can only navigate around you in one way or another, always at the expense of their time, their energy, and their convenience. And that's something I really want to stress to everybody is don't expend any more energy than you have to. Let them tucker themselves out, physically and mentally and emotionally, which they love to do. They love to emote, they love to freak out, and they love to expend their own energy. So just let them do that. Now, more than that, it is their moral self-assurance, which you, by your mere existence, throw into question. By your mere existence. Your passive, non-feminist presence, all by itself, poses a challenge. You are not actively opposing feminism, so they can't very well attack you without looking like the bad guys. Yet, that very same passive presence seems to imply that your right to exist is equal to theirs, which they hate, because it reduces feminism to just another idea or belief system like any other. Can you can you imagine if feminism would just reduce to something like the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses and just go door to door telling people about the patriarchy? But yeah, I mean, just going instead of proclaiming it as some undeniable truth, just going around and just kind of just asking people to please, consider their beliefs. They can't stand that. It drives them crazy. For them, if you are an immutable non-feminist, it is effectually the same as being anti-feminist, because it reminds them that feminism is not the world. That is why they hate you for not being a feminist, and sooner or later, they will have no choice to attack you. I've already seen it happening. There's an article, which again I can't link to because we don't have the chat room up, but I have seen an article in which they classified neutrals along with, it was a pictograph, and they classified people who were neutral between feminism and anti-feminism along with anti-feminists. They do see them all as the same entity. But once they do attack you, assuming that you have played your cards right, you've got the moral high ground. They will have made themselves the aggressor, and you will be perfectly justified in taking the offensive on your own behalf.
And finally, here's a point that bears repeating. Even when you turn into an anti-feminist or a counter-feminist, you will never stop being a non-feminist.
Yeah, that's right. Someone can drop out of a particular religion, say Catholicism, and just they don't have to be a hardline atheist. They're just not Catholic. Yeah, it's being a non-feminist is a pretty catch-all term. And looking at the world in terms of feminist and non-feminist, intrinsically, puts feminists in a position of a clear minority and clearly having an ideology that is not shared by the rest of the world.
Yeah. Anyway, so, as you might guess, non-feminism assumes the status in this world of an autonomous power, a sovereign nation, so to speak.
And in this world, sovereign nations, at least ideally, in theory, they don't tell each other what to do. They don't rule each other. Rather, they negotiate with each other and practice diplomacy with each other. If you can imagine a diplomatic feminist. Sometimes they make war upon each other too, but we'll get to that later. Of course, non-feminine is not literally a nation. It is indeed a political force or presence, and it needs a name. So we call it, very simply, the non-feminist sector. That is the name we give to it. Pretty easy for starters, although be advised it does spiral into greater complexities, but one step at a time.
Hey, so what precisely is the non-feminist sector? In a nutshell, the non-feminist sector is all forces, factors, and things which compose the universe exclusive of feminism. It's a mighty broad field, like a prairie that stretches for a zillion miles. But then, compared to feminism, the rest of the universe is vast. That's the whole point. The task now confronting us is to survey the frontier which separates feminism from non-feminism and set up markers. This will involve diplomatic conversations between feminism and the rest of the world. In a word, negotiation. And let me tell you, negotiation with anything not feminist is a foreign concept to nearly all feminists.
Well, come on, Fidelbogen. I mean, I'm sure Big Red, demonstrated some pretty good diplomatic skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, for feminists to have to behave diplomatically will entail, how shall I put it, a certain loss of privilege on their part. It will involve an equitable striving for, let us say, equality, although people should know that both Fidelbogen and I have qualms with that term, but let's just call it equality for now, with the entire non-feminist sector. It will demand a flexible, accommodating attitude and an ability to suck up good advice, which is sometimes rudely proffered. All of this will be a game changer, and for nearly all feminists, an occasion for growing pains. Oh, they will. They will learn to be diplomatic.
Yes, indeed. All right, we have outlined what non-feminist autonomy strives for and what the outward tokens of this might be. We have not yet touched upon the principle which defines the core of it. So, here goes. The core of non-feminist autonomy is non-feminist self-identity. Simple, isn't it? It means that non-feminism simply decides what it is and what it isn't in relation to feminism. That's all. So by implication, this means that non-feminism also defines feminism by that very process itself. In the end, it comes down to a very simple slogan that we never get tired of repeating. You've heard it before, and you'll hear it again. Nick, my memory is fuzzy, so help me with this. What is that slogan about feminism which we never get tired of repeating?
Feminism is what we say it is?
Ah, yes, thank you, Nick. I have no idea what I would do if you weren't here to jog my memory. Feminism is what we say it is. Hey, you know what? I think it's time for a music break. I think we're just about to the halfway mark in the program, so it's time for a music break. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay, we're back for the second part of the Vanguard Report, episode number 12. I am your host, Fidelbogen, and with me is my fellow host, Nick Reading, a true son of the Alberta Prairie. Just before the break, we were talking about non-feminist self-identity. We, as non-feminist men and women, know what we are because we know what feminism is. That makes sense. We're non-feminist. We must have some idea about what feminism is in order to take our own measure as non-feminist. After all, we are firmly not feminist, and we must have a pretty firm idea what feminism is, right? So, in essence, we define feminism. Yes, we define feminism. Not the dictionary, us. We define feminism. Feminism does not define feminism. We do. In other words, Nick, help me out again. What was that famous slogan that we love so much?
Feminism is what we say it is.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Feminism is what we say it is, not what feminism says it is. It's our turn now, after all these years, to start saying what feminism is. Oh, don't get me wrong, the feminists are welcome to gather in their little clubhouse and tell each other what feminism is, and they're welcome to believe this too. But as for the rest of us, are we bound to take them seriously? What do you think? See, the feminists have got this little thing going on called epistemic self-privilege. It means that feminism's epistemology is privileged because, well, feminism is a special snowflake. Well, they might think feminism is a special snowflake, but the trouble is that nobody else does. There is not a damn thing wrong with our eyes, thank you very much. And we have had years and years to see very clearly with our perfectly good eyes what feminism is. That's our authority. Seeing is knowing. I don't mean what feminism is supposed to be. That's what a feminist will tell you. I mean what feminism really is. One more time, feminism is what we say it is. I mean, why should it not be? Friends, that is the core of non-feminist identity. Intellectual independence of the feminist narrative. And the definition of feminism itself is the centerpiece for the feminist narrative. So when you chuck that part of it away, you chuck the whole narrative away right along with it. Well now, it's time to open up the call line. This is the Vanguard Report. The number to call is 214-666-6148. Dial that number, folks, and tell us what's on your mind. Once again, the number is 214-666-6148. All right. Intellectual independence from the feminist narrative begins and ends with the normative non-feminist definition of feminism. That's our normative definition, the non-feminist definition of feminism. It's not the feminist definition, okay? And the normative non-feminist definition of feminism is feminism, the project to increase the power of women. We say normative because, frankly, that's the only non-feminist definition of feminism that is worth a rip. If you are not feminist and if you want to make headway against feminism in this world, you need to embrace this definition and this one only as the working model of what feminism objectively is. You can embrace some other non-feminist definition of feminism, maybe, but if you do, you'll just end up spinning your wheels in the mud. This is the one that gets traction and gets you down the road. Never forget that feminism is the project to increase the power of women. The rest is details. Isn't that right, Nick?
It is. It is. Whenever I take this definition of feminism to pro-feminist people, whether they be feminist or just feminist allies or whatever, they don't disagree with it. They do not disagree with that assessment of feminism, that it is the project to increase the power of women. But the thing is that what automatically comes next is their assumption that it's justified because women haven't got enough power. And you can see quite easily that they come from a standpoint that women do not have enough power. And people who think that they haven't got enough power, almost invariably, well, no, okay, I'm not going to say that, but it's quite common for people who think that a certain group hasn't got enough power to never understand that they have got enough power. And we're back.
Okay, folks, we are back on the air. Unfortunately, we had a technical issue there, trying to transfer somebody over. It happens from time to time.
Hello, I'm back.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Iron John, are you here?
Yes, I am. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Okay, folks, we are back. So I will let you guys continue on.
Hey, John, what's on your mind?
Well, I was listening before you guys were offering people the opportunity to say what they thought feminism was, or at least encouraging them to do so. And I had an example from real life, which I thought might explain what feminism is and how it relates to non-feminism that I'd like to share this evening.
So certainly.
Thank you. Feminism is snake oil.
Well, that sounds like
it's snake
pretty good
oil
assessment.
Because yes, and here's how it works. The snake oil salesperson offers a solution. They offer a solution to a health problem that does not exist, that people do not have, with a product that does not work, and ends up robbing people of their hope, their future, and most of all, their money, the resources they could have used to find a solution that does work. Does that sound familiar?
Sounds familiar to many tragical situations in life, yes.
Yes. So what the feminists do is they say there's a problem. You people all have a problem. It's called the patriarchy. We have a solution. It's called feminism. The solution doesn't work. And it ends up costing people a lot of time, money, and hope. And so how we can think of non-feminism in relation to this is someone in that snake oil show crowd, standing there as a skeptical observer, beginning to ask questions about the legitimacy of just how this product really works. Is it effective? And why should we be paying so much for it? I think that would work perfectly as what we could say feminism is and what non-feminism is. What do you guys think?
Well, I think that to describe feminism as snake oil, I think we could sell that just as easily as snake oil, but thank heavens it's better than snake oil.
Well, it's I think it was Mark Twain. I could be wrong. I think it was Mark Twain who said it is easier to deceive someone than to convince someone that they've been deceived. I don't think we're going to have as easy a time selling non-feminism as they have had selling feminism, because when people don't like to admit that they've been had because it makes them look stupid, and this is that's what I find that I deal with when I'm trying to tell people that feminism is snake oil. They've been purchasing it all their lives, and they don't want to admit that they've wasted all that time and money, so they just keep on doing it.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate quirk of human nature there. Once you're into something, you don't want to back out. When you're committed to something, that's it. People have got their whole lives and their identities and their careers all wrapped around this way of thinking, and there's entire economic sectors and industries wrapped around this way of thinking. And to unwrap all of that, it's going to be one hell of a job.
Yeah, and it's going to mean changes in infrastructure, changes in a lot of things, but the very first hurdle to get over is getting people to admit they've been had, which is not an easy task.
Yeah, you have to appeal to their vanity, and well, you have to overcome their vanity.
It's funny
I certainly agree. That's going to be.
It's funny you're not the first person to come to me. Oh no, it's okay. Iron John, you're not the first person to come to me with this comparison to snake oil. There's my buddy showed me an old I keep going on about this anti-feminism stuff, and my buddy linked me to a cartoon on YouTube. It's an old Disney cartoon, I think, and it's warning people against communism. But they don't call it communism. It's just some snake oil salesman rolls up into town with selling people an ism, and it seems to be some panacea. That helps out the business owners and the workers and the farmers and everybody. But sooner or later, everybody's just getting told what to do.
That sounds familiar. Nobody likes being told what to do. Well, I know I don't.
Yeah, me neither. But is there some sort of humane or compassionate way we could approach people with who have been had by this snake oil, and very gently getting them to understand and admit that they have been taken? Is there some other way from some perhaps other field where this is done?
I've got something to say to that, if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead.
Now, the only compassionate way to deal with it is just tell them the truth. I mean, you can't soften a blow like, oh, your ideology is bullshit. I mean,
well, you don't
really,
want to be.
Can we really soften it any more than simply telling them the truth? No, I don't think so. You don't want to be wantonly cruel to them. But well,
the truth all by itself stings plenty. So just lay the truth on them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there's no easy way to break to somebody that Santa Claus isn't real, and the Tooth Fairy is Mama with a quarter. You just either way, it's gonna suck. The real compassion has to do with the fact you tell them at all. That's where the real compassion lies.
Yeah, in the comments section of my YouTube videos, most notably the presence that we had at the 2014 Slut Walk here in Edmonton, I'm getting a lot of flack over being rude or not being sensitive enough to the feminists. And
look who's talking. Look who's talking, man.
That's the same iteration of "Oh, my little pussy hurts" that I've heard the last 5 years. That's all that is.
Yeah, and well, I'm getting people claiming to be MRAs or pro men's rights or anti-feminists or whatever, who are coming in and telling me that I should lay off the rude approach.
I think they call those concern trolls now, don't they?
Yeah.
I call them fucking keyboard warriors, and my answer to them is, you get out on the fucking street and see how well you fucking do.
Yeah, well, sometimes I am that abrupt with them, but sometimes I tell them the same message in a different tone, not the tone police, James, but to say if you think that you can do a better job of it, if you think that your reasoned, polite approach is better than my kicking over beehives, then please go there, do it, film it, put it on YouTube, and we can compare your methods to mine.
The softball approach failed us for years and years, and it's only when we started playing hardball that things started moving.
Yeah.
So, at least in the initial stages, you got to play hardball. You got to be a little bit rough. I don't think there's any help for that.
So, in short, right now, no, there is no sensitive way to tell them. Because I remember watching the tea time, whatever it was, between Cafe and Karen Strawn. And as everybody knows, Cafe is very erudite, they're very sensitive, they're almost politically correct.
Too much for their own good.
And they were talking, the conversation they were having with Karen gone around to Men's Rights Edmonton. This is around the "Don't Be That Girl" thing. And the thing is, we are openly rude. We're openly brazen. We have anti-feminism right on the front page of our website. Cafe declares that they are not anti-feminist and that they are not men's rights. But they, despite them minding all their P's and Q's, they probably get even more hatred and vitriol than we do.
Mm-hmm.
So
if the other side perceives a threat in any way, whether it's a polite threat or a nasty threat, doesn't matter. The perceived threat is the thing that counts. That's the thing that triggers them.
Just even if you just say, I disagree with this, I don't think we live in a patriarchy, that's pretty mild, but it will be seen as a full-blown attack.
The reaction will be disproportionate, grossly disproportionate.
So right now, I wish there was a way. I wish there was a way to kindly and gently take them aside and explain it to them. But
there are some people you can do that with, and you just got to know who you're dealing with. Some people you can be kind of gentle with them. Other people you can't, and other people don't even bother. I mean, wait for them to finally get the message when it's all collapsing around their ears.
Well, that's a very interesting way of putting it. The question is, once we have broken through to them, if that's possible, and whether it's an opponent or whether it's a neutral party, I think probably the best thing we could do is offer them an authentic alternative. Any idea what that might be? Could it be non-feminism instead?
exactly.
Non-feminism, I don't see us selling them anything in particular. I see us doing nothing more than restoring them to reality and putting their feet on the road and saying, now you are free, now you can walk on your own feet again. And I think that all by itself is an enormous gift.
Yeah, I come at this knowing, like, I was right in with the social justice warriors here in Edmonton, right in with the feminists, and I started, like, I was having a problem with them all on my own, and I went out and I started looking, but I find that there's no convincing people. People just have to hear about what we're doing. They just have to hear that there is an alternative, and the people who want an alternative already will come to our side. They will come to our side.
They will come to our side, and our numbers will grow. And the diehards, when they see our numbers growing, that's when self-doubt begins to creep in, and they begin to wonder.
Yeah.
But they can't be reached directly. They can only be reached indirectly. When they see members of their own peer group jumping ship, then they're going to go into panic mode. Then some of them will begin to doubt, and then their worldview, their character armor will begin to crumble. Some of them might do crazy things, so we got to look out for that as well.
Yeah, but for the most part, just going up and explaining it to them, feminism will never yield to mere persuasion. It will never ever happen. You just like with every ideology, you've got people who will never admit they've lost. But a good deal of feminists and feminist supporters, they're just doing the thing to do. They're just doing the hip thing. Once it becomes unhip, you'll see massive sections of their numbers just wither away.
Well, I think the comforting thing from our perspective is that the people we're dealing with are not monolithic. Feminists like to say that feminism is not monolithic, and that statement is either true or false depending on how you take it. I mean, feminism as an ideology, as a social organism, functions monolithically in its purpose, but the human elements that compose it are far from monolithic. And if we exploit the human diversity, that's how we make headway. We get some of them to fall away from the cult.
Yeah, we've only got it. We're quickly approaching the brick wall of death here. But I did want to say something. When I went up to go meet a guy out in Vancouver a couple years ago, I was introduced to a guy, Neil Westlake, and he's a really cool guy. He lives with his wife and kids, but he was a radical feminist before he was an MRA. His road to Damascus moment was when he was taking part in the Occupy movement in Vancouver, and he started seeing that people were given preference in terms of speaking because of the color of their skin or their sexual orientation or their sex. And he just went, what the fuck is this? And he jumped ship and he came over to us. Nobody had to explain anything to him.
I don't think he's unique. I think there's more like him out there.
Yeah, I was a social justice warrior. Nobody had to come in and nobody had to convince me, and I didn't have to convince a single member of Men's Rights Edmonton. All we have to do is just broadcast as loudly as we can, and people would just keep coming over.
Well, all right, Nick, you mentioned the brick wall of death, and we're getting there. Well, we're closer than I thought we were. Folks, it's really close. So I'm going to say come to cfproject.blog.com, read the Poison Manifesto, and then go to mensrightsedmonton.com and see the Men's Rights Edmonton website. And we got about 1 minute left before the brick wall of death, so we're going to have to wind it down here. Everybody has been great. This has been Vanguard Report, episode number 12. Next week, it'll be episode number 13. And we hope to see you all again 7 days from today. See you next week, folks. Ciao.
Bye.
Feminism is what we say it is. And we say that feminism is the problem. Putting the conversation where it needs to be. This is the Vanguard Report.
Coverage of it for you. It's very brief. So, crybaby number 2, everyone involved in a story about fake rape. In brackets, is there a word for fake rape? The incident is that 4 girls took a cab. When they arrived at their destination, the driver asked them for $13 for his services. The appropriate reaction, paying for the cab that they ordered and subsequently rode in. The actual reaction, upon arrival, the 4 ladies told the cab driver that they were not going to pay for the cab. Then they exited the vehicle and told the first people they saw that the driver had attempted to molest them. Then they called the police. Luckily for Sonariasa, the driver of the cab, he had a dash cam recording what was happening and was able to prove his innocence to the police. But then, Sonar decided that just getting away with it wasn't enough, and decided to sue the young ladies for $60,000, which, I believe, puts him firmly into crybaby territory himself. Obviously, accusing someone of rape, of a rape they didn't commit, is a very, very, very shitty thing to do, but you can't sue people for what might have happened. Or, I mean, you can. I know this because he's doing it right now, but you shouldn't.
I would beg to differ with the shouldn't. I'm surprised he didn't sue them for $150,000. I mean, if he could get away with it.
So, unfortunately, I can't provide
the so-called men's rights movement. It is a platform for the let the oil out of feminism's crankcase movement. Oh, don't get me wrong, we do care about men's issues, but I admit we don't care. But we do care, you know what I mean? It's called emotional honesty, and I think you might find it refreshing. As always, I am your host, Fidelbogen, and with me is my fellow host, Nick Reading, a man of Canada, a true son of the Alberta Prairie, and counter-feminist commissar for the city of Edmonton. And as usual, Nick is transmitting from the top of a grain elevator far out upon the wide Alberta Prairie. Nick, I know you want to say hello to the people and you want to say something else. Well, Nick, say hello to the people.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Reading from mensrightsedmonton.com, and we're going to start putting episodes of this show on our YouTube channel, which you can find just by clicking the videos link on our website, mensrightsedmonton.com. And because, unfortunately, the chat room is down this week, I can't provide
Feminism is we say it is. And we say that feminism is the problem. Putting the conversation where it needs to be. This is the Vanguard Report.
Greetings, fellow workers in the vineyard. Welcome to episode number 12 of the Vanguard Report, the weekly radio show where we talk about feminism from a perspective that you don't normally hear, a non-feminist perspective. Wow, think of that. Feminism is damn near all we talk about on this program. This is not a platform for...
Link to this story at the moment, but you can, if you just Google Soner Yasa, S-O-N-E-R space Y-A-S-A, and then the word Vice, it'll come up with the Crybaby of the Week. This publication, what I think they're doing is they're trying to distance themselves. I think they're realizing that their critical attitude towards the men's rights movement and articles like this are just abysmal. And
maybe they sense that the tide is turning.
Yeah, and they're doing exactly what I've predicted on this program before. Is they're trying to say nice things and do nice things and behave decently without admitting the shitty way that they acted in the past.
Well, we intend to remind them of that now, don't we?
Yes. People cannot just be allowed to simply drop their bullshit behavior or their bogus criticisms and turn around and go, "Oh, we were, oh, that was nothing. You guys are awesome." They have to be held accountable until they publicly apologize. That's it.
We will encourage them to say they're sorry, yes. Folks, this story of Soner Yasa is just one of many. Stories like this happen all the time. They're not rare. They're not uncommon. These young women were not afraid to go through the legal proceedings and go to the police and all of that traumatic stuff that the feminists keep talking about. Clearly, it was a walk in the...
Provide any links to the story I'm going to cover here, but as many of you may know, Vice magazine finally took a break from trashing the men's rights movement to do a little piece on the women of the men's rights movement, and it's very good. Both the video and the article can be found on A Voice for Men, and they did a damn fine job. But
it's actually respectful, then, is it, Nick?
Yes, it is. But they. So they're finally, they gave very favorable reviews to Janet Bloomfield and Karen Strawn, but
holy shit! Favorable reviews to Karen Strawn. Go on, Nick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is the first time that they've ever written anything respectful about us. Every other thing that they've written about us has been an abominable hit piece, and even before that, they wrote a piece. They have a regular feature in their magazine called Crybaby of the Week, and on June 8, 2012, they had a couple of crybabies. One was Miss April Spielman, and it had to do with something at Disneyland. But the next one is about a case familiar to many non-feminists. So it's the case of Soner Yasa, a cab driver here in Edmonton, and I'd like to read their coverage about it. Their